After 1,463 days in the shadows, Mike Tyson was finally free. On March 25, 1995, the most feared man in boxing walked out of an Indiana prison after serving just over 3 years of a 6-year sentence for rape. It had been 4 years and 7 days since his last appearance in the ring, a punishing 12-round war with Razor Ruddock back on March 18, 1991. In that time, the world had changed, and so had boxing. Evander Holyfield had become undisputed heavyweight champion. Lennox Lewis had emerged as a new force. George Foreman had shocked the world by becoming the oldest heavyweight title holder in history. But even with all that, the shadow of Mike Tyson still loomed large. Behind bars, Tyson hadn't wasted his time. According to reports, he maintained a strict daily routine, running 5 miles a day, performing hundreds of push-ups and sit-ups, and reading voraciously, from philosophy to military history. He kept his body lean and his mind sharp. He hadn't just been biding time, he'd been preparing. Now aged 28, Tyson returned to a sport that had moved on without him, but fans hadn't forgotten. The hype was enormous. His name still echoed with menace. His return wasn't just a comeback, it was a reckoning. The road to redemption began here. The Tyson comeback had officially started. Fight 43, August 19, 1995, Peter McNeeley. After more than 4 years out of the ring, Mike Tyson made his long-awaited return on August 19, 1995 in Las Vegas. The opponent, Peter McNeeley, a brash and undefeated heavyweight from Medfield, Massachusetts, who had built up a 36-1 record mostly against journeymen. Despite being largely untested at the elite level, McNeeley grabbed headlines by promising to wrap Tyson in a cocoon of horror, injecting an air of theater and bravado into the fight's build-up. This was more than just another fight. It was a media event. Tyson's comeback was broadcast on pay-per-view under the banner of "He's Back," and the spectacle generated 1.52 million buys, making it one of the biggest pay-per-view events in boxing history at the time. The crowd was electric, the anticipation feverish. Tyson, now under the guidance of Don King once more, was stepping into the unknown. After years away from competitive combat, nobody quite knew what to expect. The fight itself, however, was brief and chaotic. From the opening bell, McNeeley charged forward recklessly, determined to brawl with the former champion. Tyson remained composed, countering with power and precision. Just 8 seconds in, Tyson landed a clean right hand, and within 30 seconds, McNeeley was down from a short left hook. He got up quickly and resumed his aggressive approach, but Tyson again dropped him less than a minute later. In a bizarre turn of events, McNeeley's manager, Vinny Vecchione, stepped into the ring after the second knockdown, prompting the referee to disqualify McNeeley just 89 seconds into the first round. The crowd booed the anticlimactic ending, but Tyson had officially returned, now 42-1 with 38 knockouts. Though the nature of the victory raised more questions than it answered, one thing was clear: the hunger was still there. Tyson was back in the win column, and the boxing world was on notice. Fight 44, December 16, 1995, Buster Mathis Jr. 4 months after his chaotic comeback against Peter McNeeley, Mike Tyson stepped into the ring once again, this time facing Buster Mathis Jr. on December 16, 1995 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the first time Tyson had fought on the East Coast since 1986. Originally scheduled for November in Las Vegas, the bout had been delayed due to Tyson suffering a broken thumb during training. There were also issues with securing a venue after New Jersey declined to grant Tyson a boxing license, prompting the relocation to Philly's Core States Spectrum. Mathis Jr., the son of 1960s heavyweight contender Buster Mathis Sr., came into the fight with a 20-0, 1 no contest record. While undefeated, Mathis had a very different fighting style than Tyson's previous opponents, defensive, stocky, and known more for his durability and mobility than his punching power. He stood nearly a foot shorter than some of Tyson's past adversaries, but shared the same build and squat frame, measuring in at 5 feet 11 and weighing 224 pounds. The first round saw a cautious Tyson feeling out his opponent. Mathis moved well early on, ducking and rolling under Tyson's shots and showing a surprisingly effective defense. But Tyson's pressure gradually ramped up in round 2, and he began to cut off the ring more effectively, backing Mathis into corners and unloading to the body. The end came in the 3rd round. With 33 seconds left, Tyson delivered one of the most devastating combinations of his career. As Mathis ducked down, Tyson caught him with a short right uppercut, followed instantly by a crushing left hook that landed clean on the temple. Mathis dropped heavily to the canvas, flat on his back. Though he tried to rise, the referee waved it off at 2:32 of round 3, giving Tyson his 2nd consecutive knockout since returning to the ring. It was Tyson's 39th knockout in 44 professional fights, and it marked another step toward reclaiming the heavyweight title. Despite Mathis's awkward style and early elusiveness, Tyson had once again proven he still possessed the power and finishing instincts that had once made him the most feared man in boxing. The stage was now set for a return to championship contention in 1996. 1996 marked Mike Tyson's return to the top of the heavyweight division. Once again, the title belts were in his sights, and it didn't take long for him to claim them. But the comeback trail wouldn't be complete without settling old scores. And in 1996, Tyson would finally face the one man he'd long been accused of avoiding, Evander Holyfield. What followed was a 2-fight saga that shocked the world, not just for what happened inside the ring, but for what Tyson would do when pushed beyond the edge. These 2 years would define the next chapter of Tyson's career and set in motion another dramatic fall from grace. Fight 45, 16 March 1996. Frank Bruno. After nearly 5 years, Mike Tyson finally had the chance to reclaim a piece of the heavyweight crown. On 16 March 1996, he stepped into the ring with WBC champion Frank Bruno in a highly anticipated rematch at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. The stakes couldn't have been higher. Bruno, now 34, was coming off the proudest moment of his career, winning the WBC heavyweight title in his 4th attempt after outpointing Oliver McCall. But defending that title against a rejuvenated Tyson was a different task altogether. The two had fought 7 years earlier, back in 1989, with Tyson winning by 5th-round stoppage. Now, with both fighters older and with their legacies on the line, the second encounter carried added weight. For Tyson, this was more than just a title fight. It was a symbolic reclaiming of his old identity as world champion. For Bruno, it was about proving that his title win wasn't just a moment in time. From the opening bell, Tyson looked sharper and far more aggressive than he had in his 1995 comeback bouts. Bruno was clearly tentative, working to survive against Tyson's swarming offense. Tyson's movement, head slips, and punching angles, hallmarks of his peak, had returned with frightening clarity. In the 3rd round, Tyson found his opening. He cornered Bruno and unleashed a vicious series of uppercuts and hooks that snapped the champion's head back. A particularly brutal left uppercut had Bruno reeling, prompting referee Mills Lane to step in and wave it off. The official time was 50 seconds into the round. With the win, Tyson became a 2-time WBC heavyweight champion. Bruno, emotional in defeat, would retire after the bout, closing the book on a proud, if often difficult, career. For Tyson, however, the title win marked a new era. He had successfully climbed the mountain once again. But even bigger challenges and deeper controversies lay just around the corner. Fight 46, 7 September 1996, Bruce Seldon. After reclaiming the WBC heavyweight title earlier in the year with a dominant win over Frank Bruno, Mike Tyson continued his march back toward undisputed status. But politics once again played a central role in shaping the path. In 1996, Lennox Lewis had been the mandatory challenger for Tyson's WBC belt. Tyson's team, however, had other plans, and so did Don King. Lewis was offered a career-high $13.5 million guarantee to face Tyson, but instead accepted $4 million from Don King to step aside and allow Tyson to pursue a bout with WBA champion Bruce Seldon. The plan was clear. Tyson would fight Seldon for another world title, and, if victorious, would then face Lewis in a massive unification showdown. With the WBC title vacated, Tyson now set his sights on the WBA belt. The bout with Seldon was booked for September 7th at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Seldon had won the vacant WBA title in 1995 by stopping former champion Tony Tucker, and had one successful defense under his belt. Known for his jab and size, Seldon talked confidently in the build-up, but few gave him a serious chance against Tyson's firepower. Once the fight began, any sense of suspense quickly vanished. Tyson came forward immediately, aggressive and intense. Just over a minute into the opening round, a glancing right hand sent Seldon stumbling to the canvas. He beat the count, but Tyson closed in again and landed another short right that sent Seldon down for the second time. Though he rose once more, referee Richard Steele had seen enough and stopped the bout at just 1 minute and 49 seconds of round 1, declaring Tyson the winner by TKO. The crowd erupted, this time in boos. Many were stunned by the ease with which Seldon had gone down, and accusations of a dive circulated widely. Seldon later insisted he was hurt and overwhelmed by Tyson's power, but fans were unconvinced. Still, the results stood. Tyson was now WBA heavyweight champion. The night, however, would be tragically remembered for more than just the fight. Mere hours after the bout, rapper Tupac Shakur was gunned down in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas, following an altercation involving members of Tyson's entourage. He would die 6 days later, casting a somber shadow over the event. Tyson appeared to be on top of the boxing world, and just as planned, the next challenge was set. A long-delayed showdown with Evander Holyfield, Tyson's most skilled and accomplished opponent since his return from prison. But what followed would shock the world. Again. Fight 47, 9 November 1996, Evander Holyfield. After reclaiming the heavyweight crown with emphatic victories over Frank Bruno and Seldon, Mike Tyson was once again champion and the most feared man in boxing. The long-awaited clash with Evander Holyfield, originally planned for 1991, was finally set for November 9, 1996, at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. But the timing couldn't have seemed more lopsided. Holyfield, a former undisputed cruiserweight and heavyweight champion, was widely considered washed up. Having battled heart issues and endured punishing wars throughout his career, many believed he had no business being in the ring with Tyson. In fact, the Nevada State Athletic Commission had initially denied him a license in 1994 due to health concerns, and doctors warned that another brutal fight could be life-threatening. He'd gone 2-2 in his previous 4 fights and was a massive underdog. Some bookmakers had him at 25-1. The public narrative was grim. This was less a fight and more a formality. Another name for Tyson to bulldoze on his way to a unification with Lennox Lewis. But Evander Holyfield had other plans. From the opening bell, Holyfield showed no fear. He boxed with poise and control, countering Tyson's aggression with sharp combinations and using his size and experience to tie Tyson up inside. Tyson landed several of his trademark hooks, but Holyfield absorbed them and fired back with equal, if not greater, authority. The turning point came in round 6, when Holyfield dropped Tyson with a short right hand, the first official knockdown Tyson had suffered since the Buster Douglas fight nearly 7 years earlier. Though Tyson beat the count, it was clear the aura of invincibility had shattered. Holyfield's physicality frustrated Tyson. He used head movement, clinches, and constant pressure to nullify Tyson's rhythm. Tyson, who had relied so often on early round knockouts, found himself drowning in the later rounds. His power was no longer bailing him out. In the 10th, Holyfield dominated, landing clean combinations and backing Tyson up, and in round 11, after a sustained and brutal barrage with Tyson pinned against the ropes, referee Mitch Halpern stepped in to stop the fight. Evander Holyfield had done the unthinkable. He had stopped Mike Tyson to become a 3-time heavyweight champion of the world. It was one of the greatest upsets in boxing history, not because Tyson lost, but because Holyfield, a fighter many feared for his very health, had dominated. Tyson's comeback story had been upended, and questions about his vulnerability resurfaced. But for Holyfield, it was a resurrection, proof that heart, resilience, and belief could conquer even the most fearsome power. The two men would meet again 7 months later, in what would become one of the most infamous fights of all time. Fight 48, June 28, 1997. Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield 2. In what was meant to be the ultimate redemption arc for Mike Tyson, the rematch with Evander Holyfield on June 28, 1997, instead became the most infamous night of his career, and one of the darkest chapters in boxing history. Held again at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, the fight came 7 months after Holyfield shocked the world by stopping Tyson in the 11th round. The upset was so decisive, many questioned whether Tyson was still a true force in the division. For Tyson, this rematch was more than just a shot at regaining the WBA heavyweight title. It was personal. Tension simmered in the lead-up. Tyson's camp had accused Holyfield of headbutting during the first fight, claims that many dismissed as excuse-making, but Tyson remained fixated. In the pre-fight build-up, Tyson appeared erratic and emotional, while Holyfield was calm, disciplined, and brimming with confidence. At 34, Holyfield had already cemented his status as a 3-time world champion, and he approached the rematch with the mental strength and poise of a seasoned veteran. The fight began with an air of electricity, but also volatility. Holyfield established control early, much like in the first bout. He used his jab to measure Tyson, tied him up in close quarters, and frustrated him with movement. At the end of the second round, Holyfield dipped his head during an exchange, causing an accidental clash of heads that opened a cut over Tyson's right eye. Whether intentional or not, that headbutt proved to be the breaking point for Tyson. When round 3 began, Tyson came out with fury. He suddenly bit into Holyfield's right ear during a clinch, ripping off a chunk and spitting it onto the canvas. Referee Mills Lane halted the fight and chaos ensued. Holyfield leapt into the air in pain. Tyson paced the ring like a caged animal. Doctors examined the wound, and Lane deducted 2 points, but decided, under pressure from the commission in both camps, to allow the fight to continue. But only seconds later, Tyson struck again. In another clinch, he bit Holyfield's left ear. At the end of the round, Mike Tyson was disqualified, and Evander Holyfield was declared the winner via DQ in the 3rd round. The aftermath was explosive. Fans inside the MGM Grand erupted, some in outrage, others in disbelief. Tyson had gone from former champion to sporting pariah in a matter of minutes. The Nevada State Athletic Commission swiftly revoked his boxing license, issued a $3 million fine, and banned him indefinitely. The incident became global news, not just a boxing scandal, but a cultural flashpoint. Tyson's reputation, already damaged, took a further nosedive. It would be over 15 months before Tyson returned to the ring, and the bite fight permanently stained his legacy. More than just a disqualification, this bout represented the collapse of a fighter whose rage had finally consumed his discipline. Holyfield, the win was another high point in a remarkable comeback story. He had proven the doubters wrong, cemented his legacy, and retained his WBA title. For Tyson, the fallout from this fight would lead to another extended absence from boxing, and a further unraveling of the myth he had once built in the late 80s. The Tyson-Holyfield rivalry was meant to be an epic clash of champions. Instead, it ended as the sport's most shocking meltdown. After one of the darkest chapters of his career, and one of the most infamous nights in sporting history, Mike Tyson disappeared from the ring, following his disqualification against Evander Holyfield in June 1997 and the subsequent revocation of his boxing license. Tyson was forced into another long layoff. It would almost be 19 months before Tyson would return to the ring. Now 32 years old, the once undisputed heavyweight king was stepping back into a landscape that had changed dramatically. The heavyweight division had moved on. Lennox Lewis reigned supreme. Holyfield remained a major force, and Tyson, once the most feared man in the sport, was now viewed as unpredictable and deeply flawed. But if Tyson had proven anything throughout his career, it was that he could never be fully counted out. The comeback began on January 16, 1999. Fight 49, Tyson versus Frans Botha. January 16, 1999. Mike Tyson's first opponent in nearly 2 years was South Africa's Frans Botha, a former IBF heavyweight champion. On paper, it was a fight Tyson was expected to win, but the reality was far more complicated. From the opening bell, Tyson looked sluggish and unsure. His timing was off, his footwork labored, and his combinations absent. Botha, known more for his toughness than elite skill, fought smart, using movement, jabs, and even occasional taunting to disrupt Tyson's rhythm. He repeatedly tied Tyson up in the clinch, frustrated him with short counters, and even began talking to him mid-fight. By round 4, Botha was ahead on the scorecards and had landed the cleaner punches. Tyson looked confused, increasingly desperate, and no longer the intimidator he once was. But in classic Tyson fashion, it only took one punch to turn everything around. In round 5, as Botha momentarily dropped his guard during a clinch break, Tyson unleashed a perfectly timed short right hand that landed flush on Botha's chin. The South African dropped instantly. Though he tried to rise, he was counted out by the referee. The fight ended in dramatic, almost cinematic fashion, a reminder that even a diminished Tyson still possessed the kind of raw power that could end a fight in a heartbeat. But the struggle leading up to the KO told a different story, one of ring rust, fading speed, and a man still trying to find his way back in a sport that no longer revolved around him. Fight 50, Orlin Norris, 23 October 1999. Mike Tyson's second fight of 1999, and the 50th of his professional career, was expected to be another step in his comeback trail. His opponent, Orlin Norris, was no pushover. A former WBA cruiserweight champion and veteran of over 50 professional fights, Norris was experienced, durable, and skilled. While past his peak, he was seen as a tricky test for Tyson at this stage of his career. Held at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, the bout was Tyson's second since returning from a 19-month absence. After a slow start in his January fight against Frans Botha, fans were eager to see if Tyson could put together a more composed performance. In the opening round, Tyson came out aggressively, throwing sharp jabs and trying to close the distance. Norris kept things tight and cautious, using movement and defense to weather the early storm. But just seconds after the bell rang to end round 1, Tyson threw a short left hook that landed and dropped Norris. The punch, thrown clearly after the bell, caused immediate controversy. Norris went down clutching his knee, claiming he injured it as he fell. Tyson returned to his corner, while Norris was treated by ringside doctors. After a few minutes of discussion and inspection, the bout was declared a no contest, as Norris was deemed unable to continue due to the post-bell foul. The incident frustrated fans and raised questions about Tyson's discipline and mindset. While Tyson apologized and claimed he didn't hear the bell, the controversy cast a shadow over what was meant to be a showcase of his renewed focus. Instead, the night ended with boos from the crowd and confusion over what would come next. Though it wasn't a loss, it was yet another night where Tyson failed to build sustained momentum in his post-prison career and left many wondering if the fire was still there. After a chaotic end to the 1990s, marked by ring rust, canceled fights, and questions surrounding his future, Mike Tyson entered the year 2000 with much to prove. Nearly a decade removed from his reign as the undisputed heavyweight champion, Tyson was now a fading icon battling not only his opponents, but the relentless passage of time. At 33 years old, the boxing world still watched with anticipation, wondering if Iron Mike could summon even a flicker of the menace that once made him the most feared man in sports. What followed in 2000 was a year of brief resurgence, bizarre moments, and the lingering sense that Tyson's story, though still being written, was drifting further away from its prime chapters. Fight 51, January 29, 2000 versus Julius Francis. Mike Tyson marked his 51st professional bout by taking on British heavyweight champion Julius Francis at Manchester's MEN Arena. It was Tyson's first fight outside the United States in nearly a decade. Francis, though a seasoned domestic fighter, was widely viewed as outmatched and entered the bout as a 16-1 underdog. From the opening bell, Tyson wasted no time asserting his dominance, scoring 2 knockdowns in the first round alone with quick hooks and uppercuts. While Francis showed heart by rising both times, it was clear he was in deep trouble. Round 2 followed a similar script. Tyson knocked Francis down 3 more times in a matter of seconds, with the fifth knockdown delivered via a brutal right uppercut, proving the final blow. The referee waved off the contest just 58 seconds into the round, awarding Tyson a second-round TKO victory. The performance was explosive and entertaining, reminding the world of Tyson's raw power. But despite the emphatic finish, there were signs that Tyson was no longer the relentless force of his youth. His movement was slower, his timing occasionally off, and the quality of opposition raised questions. Nonetheless, the spectacle proved Tyson could still draw global attention and knockouts. Fight 52, June 24, 2000 versus Lou Savarese. Mike Tyson's 52nd professional bout took place in front of a raucous crowd at Hampden Park in Glasgow, Scotland, as he faced off against Lou Savarese, who entered the ring with a solid 39-3 record and ambitions of derailing Tyson's return to form. But the fight was over almost as soon as it began. Just 12 seconds into the opening round, Tyson dropped Savarese with a thunderous left hook. Although Savarese beat the count, Tyson unleashed a ferocious follow-up assault, forcing referee John Coyle to wave off the contest at 38 seconds of round one. One of the quickest stoppage wins of Tyson's entire career. In the chaos that followed, Tyson accidentally knocked down the referee in the frenzy to finish the fight, further fueling his unpredictable reputation. But the night wasn't remembered solely for the blistering knockout. In the immediate aftermath, Tyson gave one of the most infamous post-fight interviews of all time. In an unhinged rant directed at Lennox Lewis, Tyson screamed, "I want your heart. I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah." It was a moment that sent shockwaves across the boxing world, simultaneously confirming Tyson's raw aggression was still intact, while raising serious questions about his mental state. Though brief, the Savarese fight added yet another layer to Tyson's mythos. Devastatingly powerful in the ring, utterly volatile outside it. Fight 53, October 20th, 2000 vs. Andrew Golota. After a brutal but bizarre win over Lou Savarese, Tyson returned once more in 2000 to face Andrew Golota, a former heavyweight contender with a reputation for power and resilience. The bout took place at Madison Square Garden, marking the final Tyson appearance of the year. From the opening bell, Tyson attacked aggressively, cutting off the ring and forcing Golota into the corner. As round two ended, Tyson had clearly established control, landing the heavier shots and applying relentless pressure. But what happened next shocked the crowd. Between rounds, Andrew Golota stunned his corner by declaring he would not continue. Despite the pleas of his trainer and team, Golota stood firm, walking away from the fight just moments before the third round was set to begin. Referee Frank Garza approached him with a final warning, letting him know there was still time to re-enter the fight, but Golota refused. With no choice, Garza turned to Tyson's corner and officially declared him the winner by technical knockout. Although the result would later be overturned to a no contest after Tyson tested positive for cannabis, the performance itself was ferocious, and in the moment, it was seen as Tyson's most significant win since his return to championship contention in 1996. Fight 54, Mike Tyson vs. Brian Nielsen, 13 October 2001. Following nearly a year-long suspension after testing positive for cannabis, Mike Tyson planned to return to the ring against David Izone in June 2001. However, that fight was postponed, as Showtime tried to arrange a mega fight between Tyson and the then WBC and IBF heavyweight champion, Hasim Rahman. This bout would have marked Tyson's first title shot since his controversial 1997 fight with Evander Holyfield. But Rahman ultimately chose to pursue a rematch with Lennox Lewis instead. Tyson's actual return fight took place on October 13, 2001, against Brian Nielsen at Parken Stadium in Copenhagen, Denmark. Nielsen came into the fight with an impressive record of 62 wins and only one loss. Known for his durability and toughness, Nielsen was a credible opponent, but not among the elite heavyweights. The fight was controlled by Tyson, who applied relentless pressure and showcased his signature power. After 6 rounds, Nielsen was visibly worn down and chose not to continue, sitting on his stool and retiring at the end of the 6th round. Tyson was declared the winner via TKO. This win made Tyson the #1 contender for the WBC heavyweight title and put him on a collision course with Lennox Lewis. a fight that had first been mooted back in 1996, when Lewis turned down a $13.5 million guarantee to fight Tyson, opting instead to take $4 million from Don King to step aside and allow Tyson to fight Bruce Seldon for the WBC belt, with the understanding that Tyson would face Lewis next. The long-awaited Tyson versus Lewis showdown remained one of boxing's most anticipated matchups, with this victory reigniting hopes it would finally take place. Fight 55. Mike Tyson versus Lennox Lewis. After years of anticipation, Mike Tyson finally faced Lennox Lewis on 8 June 2002 in Memphis, Tennessee. This fight was highly anticipated because the two had been linked since 1996, when Tyson was the reigning WBC heavyweight champion. Back then, Lennox Lewis was the mandatory challenger, but Lewis accepted a $4 million step-aside payment to allow Tyson to fight Bruce Seldon instead, delaying their showdown by 6 years. By 2002, Lewis had become the undisputed heavyweight champion, holding the WBC, IBF, and IBO belts, while Tyson was no longer the dominant force he once was, having suffered knockout losses to Buster Douglas in 1990 and Evander Holyfield twice in 1996 and 1997. Despite this, Tyson remained a huge draw, and their long-awaited fight was set to finally settle the rivalry. Due to licensing issues in Nevada, the fight was moved to Memphis. The intense build-up featured a notorious press conference brawl, where Tyson lunged at Lewis, sparking a melee between their camps. In the ring, Lewis dominated with his jab, reach, and superior boxing skill. He steadily wore Tyson down, opening a large cut over Tyson's eye and breaking his rhythm. In the 8th round, Lewis landed a powerful right hand that knocked Tyson down. Tyson was unable to beat the count, resulting in a KO loss. This fight ended Tyson's last legitimate shot at a heavyweight title and solidified Lennox Lewis's legacy as the top heavyweight of his era. Fight 56. Mike Tyson versus Clifford Etienne. On 22 February 2003, Mike Tyson stepped back into the ring for his 56th professional bout, facing Clifford, the Black Rhino, Etienne, at the Pyramid in Memphis, Tennessee. Etienne, holding a 24-1-1 record, was seen as a game opponent, known for his strength and aggressive style. Yet for Tyson, this fight was about more than just another win. It was a chance to rebuild momentum after the crushing defeat to Lennox Lewis 8 months earlier. There had been uncertainty in the build-up, with rumors swirling that Tyson would pull out due to poor preparation. But when the bell rang, any doubts were erased in under a minute. After a brief clinch that sent both fighters stumbling to the canvas, Tyson landed a thunderous right hand that knocked Etienne out cold. The fight ended just 49 seconds into the first round, making it one of the quickest and most devastating knockouts of Tyson's career. After the fight, Tyson caused a stir by claiming he had entered the ring with a broken back, later clarified as a lingering issue from a past injury. Regardless, the performance was enough to silence critics, at least temporarily. Though the win reignited talk of a potential rematch with Lennox Lewis, Tyson expressed hesitation about jumping back into the spotlight too soon, stating he needed more tune-up fights. Ultimately, the Lewis rematch never materialized. While this wasn't his last fight, it would prove to be his final victory, and a fleeting glimpse of the old ferocity that once made Tyson the most feared man in boxing. Fight 57. Mike Tyson versus Danny Williams. After a 17-month layoff following his win over Clifford Etienne, Mike Tyson returned to face Danny Brixton Bomber Williams, a British heavyweight ranked outside the top 10, and viewed by many as a tune-up opponent for Tyson's latest comeback push. Williams entered with a 31-3 record and huge underdog status, 9-1 on the money line. Tyson came out strong in the opening round, landing crisp uppercuts and left hooks that staggered Williams. But late in round 1, Tyson suffered a torn ligament in his left knee, which would cripple his mobility for the remainder of the fight. Despite this injury, Tyson controlled the early rounds on the scorecards. In round 2, Williams rallied impressively. The third round saw Williams penalized twice, once for a foul that opened a cut over Tyson's eye and another for a low blow. But everything changed in round 4. With only 25 seconds left in the frame, Williams fired a barrage of thunderous right hands that sent Tyson crashing onto the ropes and to the canvas. Williams secured one of the most stunning upsets in heavyweight history, a 4th-round KO at 251. This marked Tyson's 5th career loss and dealt another blow to hopes of a true resurgence. The result shocked the boxing world. Commentators noted Tyson's decline, both physical and mental. At 38, weighed down by injury, finances, and diminished stamina, his aura of invincibility was irreversibly shattered. Williams would go on to earn a world title shot later that year, while Tyson returned only once more, off the rails and out of championship contention. Fight 58. Mike Tyson versus Kevin McBride. After a layoff of just under 10 months following his stunning knockout loss to Danny Williams, Mike Tyson returned to the ring on 11 June 2005 at the MCI Center in Washington, D.C. This would be Tyson's 58th professional bout, and he was matched against Kevin McBride, a towering Irish heavyweight with a record of 32-4-1. At 38 years old, Tyson was clearly in the twilight of his career. Nevertheless, he entered the ring with flashes of his former aggression, looking to end things early. Tyson had some success in the opening rounds, landing sharp body shots and crowd-pleasing combinations. But McBride, using his height and weight advantage, leaned on Tyson in clinches and wore him down with consistent jabs and uppercuts. In round 6, Tyson's frustration boiled over. He attempted to break McBride's arm in the clinch and then delivered a blatant headbutt, which earned him a 2-point deduction. As fatigue set in, Tyson's punches lost their power and precision. At the end of round 6, in a moment that shocked the boxing world, Tyson told his corner he didn't want to continue. He quit on his stool, handing McBride a 6th-round RTD victory. The crowd stood stunned, watching one of the most feared men in boxing history walk away, physically diminished and emotionally detached from the sport. Despite being ahead on 2 of the judges' scorecards, Tyson's body and spirit had clearly given out. This marked Tyson's 6th professional loss, and what would ultimately be his final professional fight. He would officially announce his retirement shortly afterward,